as India teaches Pakistan a punishing lesson. As the government gives Islamabad a bloody nose for the Pulwama misadventure. As India braces for an escalation after airstrikes in Balakot. As the Indian Air Force stays on high alert and squadrons across the country remain scramble ready, as our Sukhois and Mirage 2000s wait further orders. One aircraft is quietly getting ready to join the fight. India's own jet fighter has come of age and, if necessary, can join any combat mission. Strap into your seats now as we take you up close and personal with India's light combat aircraft. India's own Thunderbird, Tejas. After Army Chief General Bipin Rawat and badminton champion PV Sindhu, India today has been invited to enter the world of the Tejas. In just a moment, we're going to be strapping into the cockpit of an LCA to get a first-hand view of what it's like to fly in India's own fighter and why pilots already love it so much. India has struck back. Pakistan has been taught a bitter lesson for its terror misadventure in Pulwama. The aircraft in the spotlight is the Mirage 2000 fighters from Gwalior, aircraft that India bought from France back in the 1980s. But the spotlight is also shifting to another aircraft, and this is an aircraft that is India's very own. Locked, loaded, and ready for battle. This little jet has also had one hell of a month.
Bomb's gone.
From putting on a fearsome show of strength at the Vayu Shakti firepower exercise to enthralling the crowds at Bengaluru's recent Aero India show. This compact fighter, like the Mirage 2000, is ready for a fight. And in the aftermath of Pulwama, as India and India's Air Force teaches Pakistan a bloodied lesson, as Indian fighter squadrons remain on operational alert, India today was invited to meet the Air Force's newest member. Well, not just meet, but actually fly the light combat aircraft Tejas. And that too just a day after the fighter jet received final operational clearance for combat service. First things first, I obviously couldn't wear just about anything for the flight. A team from the Tejas program helps me get into full fighter pilot gear. From the flying suit, to the boots, the G-suit to counter the dangerous levels of acceleration force, or G in a fast jet. And finally the fighter helmet with an oxygen mask. Now fully kitted out, I get to meet the man who'll be commanding the flight. And given the circumstances, I couldn't have possibly asked for a greater pilot to be in charge. This is Air Vice Marshal N. Tiwari, Chief of the National Flight Test Center that oversees the testing and proving process of the LCA Tejas. Well, given what India has just done with its Mirage 2000s across the border, Air Vice Marshal Tiwari also happens to be a Kargil war hero, the war in which India's Mirages were last used in anger. Air Vice Marshal Tiwari led missions in Mirage fighters to bomb Pakistani positions on the famous Tiger Hill 2 decades ago. Briefed and ready for the mission, we head out to the tarmac. On a scorching hot Bengaluru day, as we reach the flight line, the LCA Tejas jets finally loom into view. A pair of them from the actual Air Force squadron that flies them now. Cleared to enter the fighter, I get a full cockpit brief by the ground team.
Okay. You want me to hold this, huh? Just hold it. Okay. Let me just, I'm making seat live, okay?
With helmet on and oxygen mask checked, the canopy is lowered and the jet's American F404 engine is powered on. After several minutes of checks, we taxi out. The cockpit is a cozy little space with a multitude of flat panel displays designed to give pilots every possible piece of information they could need while in the air. Then we wait for clearance to take off. Once in the air, the pilot instantly banks sharply to the right, demonstrating the LCA's excellent responsiveness and agility in the air. Cruising out west of Bengaluru, the jet is throttled up and prepared for a list of maneuvers to demonstrate just how nimble this jet is. From a barrel roll to a high G loop to a few minutes where I'm given control of this fighter jet. The fully Indian control laws are super evident in this fighter's supremely excellent reflexes. The jet we're flying doesn't have weapons for obvious reasons, but don't let that fool you. The LCA Tejas already packs a formidable punch. The Tejas is already proven on a variety of weapons, including beyond visual range air-to-air missiles, heat-seeking close combat missiles, laser-guided or gravity bombs of the kind that were used in Balakot, and future weapon fits that include the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile and indigenous Astra long-range air-to-air weapon. After 30 minutes in the air, we return to base. A smooth short landing slowed with a brake parachute. From start to finish, I've spent just over 2 hours with Team Tejas. And it has begun to become clear why a fighter jet that was once derided is now being embraced by a new generation of Indian fighter pilots, just like the Mirage 2000 once was in the 1980s and 90s. If the LCA Tejas began as a project to replace India's MiG-21s, the time to do that is now. So we've just flown in the light combat aircraft Tejas, a fighter that is India's very own project and a homegrown aviation development effort. It has taken many years to come to fruition. It's possible that you've seen a lot of criticism about delays in this aircraft becoming a reality, but the aircraft you're looking at now are part of squadron service. These are aircraft that are already flying with the Indian Air Force, and not many people actually know that. The numbers are still small, but finally the Indian Air Force will be operating upwards of 120 such fighters, both single and twin-seat configurations. Now, India today has had the rare privilege of flying in an LCA Tejas and experiencing firsthand the flying qualities, the systems on board, and the many reasons why the new pilots flying this homegrown Indian fighter love this aircraft so very much. And remember, it's not just a showpiece. This is an aircraft that was recently in the Vayu Shakti firepower demonstration, and since it's in squadron service, it's not just a castle in the air. It's an aircraft that can drop bombs, can fire missiles, and can deploy weapons at standoff ranges. In many true senses, this is a multi-role fighter aircraft, very much what the Indian Air Force needs to stem its squadron depletion numbers. The LCA Tejas' big journey has really and honestly truly just begun. There's a long road ahead. Final operation clearance for the first iteration of the Tejas has just come. There's going to be an improved version that's going to be inducted in much larger numbers, and then a brand new aircraft called the medium weight fighter, which is derived from the original Tejas, that will be possibly populating upwards of 200 fighters years in the Indian Air Force. Well, the LCA Tejas took its first flight back in 2001. It was Atal Bihari Vajpayee who christened it the Tejas, Radiance. Well, for India's very own aviation effort, this hopefully will be an era of radiance. With the LCA Tejas here at the Yelahanka Air Base, with video journalist Shiv Aroor, this is Shiv Aroor for India Today. Just a few days ago, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the LCA Tejas is far superior in every way to the Chinese-Pakistani JF-17 fighter. Now remember, India and Pakistan have fought several air wars against each other. But how do the two air forces really match up against each other? And is it conceivable that the LCA Tejas and the JF-17 could possibly go head-to-head? The historic airstrikes by India on Pakistani territory in the aftermath of Pulwama is the only thing on every Indian's mind. India acting in anger after the Pulwama terror attacks. But India and Pakistan have fought in the air before. They've fought two major air wars, with fighter pilots from both sides engaging in heart-stopping dogfights, laying down a furious template for aerial hostilities. The 1965 and 1971 air wars remain the stuff of legend. One of the murals at the newly inaugurated National War Memorial depicts the Indian Air Force's most beloved strike mission, the Battle of Longewala.
T-59 and Sherman tanks and a medium artillery battery attacked Longewala border post.
Flash forward nearly half a century and little has changed in relations. Ask Balakot in Pakistan, the latest target of an Indian airstrike. In the aftermath of the terror attack in Pulwama, Pakistan has borne the brunt once again of Indian weapons fired in anger. And now with the airstrikes complete, what happens next? Could there be an escalation in aerial hostilities between India and Pakistan? But first, how do the two air forces even compare? The Indian Air Force has a large fleet of Russian Sukhoi 30 fighters for the air superiority role, with sizable multi-role fleets of Mirage 2000 and MiG-29 fighters. Formidable Jaguar low-level deep penetration strike jets and MiG-21s and MiG-27s for the air defense and attack roles. And this doesn't count the Rafales that will enter service this year with game-changing weapons. Pakistan, on the other hand, has no air superiority fighters but operates US-built F-16s, older Mirage jets, a Chinese version of the MiG-21 and, of course, the Chinese JF-17. The JF-17, a fighter supplied to Pakistan by China, has been compared often with India's LCA Tejas, mostly due to Pakistan's claim that it is a jointly developed fighter. But despite the JF-17 entering service long before the LCA Tejas and already operational in numbers nearly 10 times that of the LCA, it is seen to be a significantly inferior aircraft for several reasons. While India's LCA has only just entered service, the JF-17 has been in service for a decade now and exists in large numbers. But that's pretty much where the advantage ends. From the materials used to build it, to who can claim ownership of development, to the possibility of future improvements, the LCA Tejas delivers much more favourably. Unsurprisingly, Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also recently claimed that the LCA Tejas was superior in every way to the JF-17. And even if dogfights like the ones India and Pakistan have fought in the past are remote possibilities in these days of long-range radars and weaponry, the LCA Tejas has silenced cynics with its offensive capabilities at the recent exercises.
It is great both for the air defense as well as the ground attack, both non-precision and precision roles. So we can carry a multiple combination of weapons, and that is the advantage a homegrown aircraft gives you. That you can vary your configurations. You are not fixed by a certain predefined configurations. You can carry beyond visual range missiles as well as laser guided bombs in the same mission. So you can perform multiple operations, both as escorts to fighters as well as doing precision strike.
Which is why, as tensions continue to mount between India and Pakistan, especially in the aftermath of the airstrikes this week in Balakot, Pakistan, rest assured, the LCA Tejas won't be sitting on the ground if push comes to shove. They're currently based in Tamil Nadu's Sulur, but if necessary, could be deployed in real combat missions. There may be only a dozen LCA Tejas jets in service for now, but their numbers are also swelling. And so is their readiness for battle. It was in 2001 when the LCA Tejas first flew that Atal Bihari Vajpayee gave the light combat aircraft its name Tejas, a word that means radiance. Well, the aircraft has entered squadron service, but there is a history of struggle and hard work behind it. Let's take you into the past and show you what it has taken to reach the LCA Tejas of today.
How accurately this aircraft could dispense weapons on the target. So that is the proof of the pudding.
When you look at the LCA Tejas today, it's difficult imagining the struggle it has taken to get here. The decades of blood, sweat and tears that have gone into building India's very own fighter jet. A look into the history allows us to appreciate the miracle that is the light combat aircraft. Things kicked off in 1983 when the government first decided it wanted to build a new fighter jet, finally freezing the aircraft basic design 7 years later in 1990. In 1998, the sanctions slapped on India following the Pokhran nuclear test. The Tejas program was suddenly stripped of any outside help to develop critical flight systems, including control laws and the flight control system. The crises forced the team to look within, evolving a fully Indian brain for the fighter jet. 3 short years later, in 2001, the LCA flew for the first time, with then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee naming the aircraft Tejas, Sanskrit for radiance. In 2015, after over a decade of development, delays and troubles, the fighter was handed over to the Indian Air Force, entering squadron service a year later. Finally, in February 2019, the jet received final operation clearance.
It can not only sustain a very high sortie rate, it can also carry out very accurate weapon delivery like it was shown in this exercise in both air-to-ground and air-to-air modes. It's a fighter aeroplane, so it has to behave like a fighter, and it did well in both air-to-air and air-to-ground.
It may have taken decades to deliver an operational fighter capable of war fighting, but the gains from indigenous development are too valuable to ignore. Veteran pilots testing the LCA Tejas for the Indian Air Force say India's control over the LCA Tejas, coupled with its capabilities, make this Indian fighter a formidable asset in India's war configuration.
Control law and the handling qualities of this aircraft are exceptional. We also have very good avionics on board. You have a laser designation pod, you have an excellent radar, you have helmet mounted pointing systems and sights, and so as a package for a very small aircraft of this size, it packs a punch.
With the history of struggle, the future of LCA Tejas appears much brighter. By 2021, the Indian Air Force will have 40 LCA Tejas jets, with order for an 83 of an improved version around the corner. And finally, a new improved and more powerful avatar of the Tejas, Christian medium-weight fighter, was unveiled at the Aero India, with plans for the Air Force to order at least 200 of these jets. In other words, the Indian Air Force could operate a total of well over 300 light combat aircraft, no small feat.
We feel very proud that we have contributed to the air power of the Indian Air Force. And what I can tell you is that FOC is not an end of a milestone. It is just one more step in the process of development. And that is the advantage that you have with a homegrown aircraft. There is always an evolutionary process and it continues to develop. And surely the FOC is not the end of it. We will see better things to come in the future also.
With the LCA Tejas stretching its wings after decades in development, all eyes will be on how this little jet could change the game both for national security as well as India's aviation dreams.
Well, that's it on this special presentation on the Light Combat Aircraft Tejas. We hope you enjoyed it. I promise this will be the first of many. At the Yelahanka Air Base in Bengaluru with video journalist Shiv Aroor, this is Shiv Aroor for India Today.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.